episode of Federico Talks Watches. And boy, is it good to be back. I took a little break for the new year. A ton of family in town. I had to spend time with them, which of course was a pleasure. It was my pleasure to spend time with them, but I was a little tired, so I took a break. But now I'm back and ready to get back into the full swing of things. So today, I wanted to talk about what are the differences between a $5,000 watch and a $50,000 watch. Now, I did a video about this in September between the differences between a $500 watch and a $5,000 watch. So today we're taking it up a level, the differences between $5,000 and $50,000. Of course, before we get started, customary wristwatch check. Today, I'm wearing the Rolex Sub on this suede aftermarket strap, a strap that I really, really hate, but I haven't gotten around to switching it yet. I think I'm going to put it back on a Bond NATO or something. And of course, guys, please don't forget to check out delraywatch.com, my website where I sell some pre-owned watches, and I actually got a bunch of new stock right now. I got the new AP Safari with the ceramic pushers, an IWC Le Petit Prince Mark 18. I got a really weird skull and crossbone Bell & Ross limited edition to 50 pieces. A whole bunch of cool stuff. So check out Delray Watch Supply. That's delraywatch.com. A link in the description. And of course, I'm sure it popped up there at some point. But guys, I'm sure you're tired of this intro, so let's get right into it and let's start Federico Talks Watches for 2018, and let's get it started right. So, the differences between a $5,000 watch and a $50,000 watch. Unlike the differences between $500 and $5,000, there's diminishing returns in this category. The differences might not seem so obvious, especially to the novice watch collectors. But I'm also sure I'm going to get a ton of comments in this video where like, Federico, $50,000 is a waste of money. There's no real difference. And you know what? Let me just say this before those guys comment. You know what? If your eyes can't see the difference, it's possible. As I said, the differences are very hard to miss from a novice watch collector. But for someone who's been handling these things a long time, there really is a big difference. And as for the aspect if they are a waste of money, well, listen, it all depends on your income. Me right now, obviously $50,000 is above my reach. But we're talking about art at the end of the day. You know, these watches at this price point are art. So you know what? If you think it's a waste of money, listen, I can totally see it. But chances are you're probably not as passionate a collector, or you don't have the means to access some of these pieces, which is totally fine. But let's not judge how other people spend their money, especially if you don't have that type of money to spend yourself. So guys, now that that's out of the way, because I know that was going to come into the comments, let's talk about the differences. And there are quite a few differences, and I'm going to break it up into separate categories. The first thing I'm going to talk about is complications. Obviously, you can get some very, very different complications in the $5,000 range and in the $50,000 range. Now, in the $5,000 range, and we're talking retail pricing here, right? So this is retail pricing, not pre-owned pricing, just to keep it easy. But in the $5,000 range, you can get some great complications. You can get, of course, time only. You can get day dates. You can get chronographs. You can get GMTs. You can get some triple calendars. I mean, you have choices. But there are other complications which are just not attainable at this price point. There's no tourbillon, which even at $50,000 is kind of low, but you can certainly get one, a tourbillon. Perpetual calendar. Minute repeater, I don't think that really exists in this price point at retail, maybe pre-owned. But minute repeater is probably 100,000 plus. Equation of time. You know, there's certain complications that manufacturers kind of have to go in-house to make. They have to either make a movement from the top up, or, you know, from the bottom up, or they have to design a module. Because the fact is, most watches in the $5,000 price point aren't in-house. So you can get an ETA with a chronograph, an ETA with a triple calendar with a GMT. Or you could even design a simpler in-house movement for all those functions. But to go haute horology, quantième perpétuel, perpetual calendar in butchered French for you guys, stuff like that, that takes a lot of research and development and some very skilled watchmakers, which obviously costs a lot of money to employ, to put together. So without talking about production prices and stuff like that, there is definitely a difference in complications. At $50,000, you open up 95% of the horological complications, whereas at $5,000, you have a great choice, but it's obviously not the same. Now, the next category, of course, is materials. The materials that are used in watch cases. Now, at $5,000, you can have some pretty premium materials. You can get titanium, stainless steel, ceramic. You can get a host of coatings, PVD, ADLC. You can use bronze. Everything's going to have a sapphire crystal. But, once you go around the 50,000 and even lower, 20,000 and up, you have a whole host of noble metals. Metals, precious metals, which are much more expensive and rare than stainless steel. You have gold, be it yellow, white, or rose. You can get platinum, palladium, tantalum, some special forms of titanium. But anything super exotic out there? You can't get sapphire cases at that price point, but it's basically materials. Now, yes, these materials, a lot of them actually perform worse than stainless steel, but that's not the point. Once you hit this price range, we're no longer talking about performance. We're talking about prestige and exclusivity, which is actually another section, another category in this video. But you get this differences in materials. You could probably get gold pre-owned at $5,000. Actually, not probably, you definitely can. But at retail, I don't know of many precious metal options, very few actually, in the sub 5,000. And once again, this is generalized because we're talking about watches as a group. I'm sure there are exceptions to every rule, but definitely precious metals. Now, you can get plating in the sub 5,000 category, but I'll tell you what, it always looks like crap. Anybody that says you can't tell the difference between gold plating and gold has a very untrained eye, because I could tell you 90% of the time if it's plated or if it's solid gold without even touching the watch. Just put the watch in front of me, and actually a lot of people can. The hue is different. The shine and sheen are very, very different. And of course, plating doesn't last, which is the complete opposite of the definition of a luxury watch, because a luxury watch, if taken care of well, should last a lifetime, and plating certainly doesn't. Now we get into probably, in my opinion, the most important, and what I look forward to the most at this upper end price point, and that is finishing. Now, in the $5,000 range, a lot of watches are regulated by hand, but they're decorated by machine. However, they are decorated. And there might even be some hand finishing in there. But in the $50,000 category, I expect the watch to be 100% hand finished. And a great example is Lange & A Lange, whether you buy a $17,000 Lange or $100,000, $1 million Lange, all their watches are put together from start to finish by one watchmaker. There's no assembly line. Rolex, which is above $5,000, so it's a pretty bad example, but I don't know, a Cartier, every watchmaker or assemblyman has its job. You put in the crown, and you only put in the crown. You put in this screw, you put in the mainspring. At Lange, the watches are completely assembled by one person, and they're completely engraved and finished by one person. All the edges are chamfered and mirror polished. The bridges are engraved. They have that exquisite hand engraving on the balance cock. I mean, these watches are entirely artisanally made. Now, whether you think it's worth the money or not is not the point, but these are pieces of art. Actually, when I was with Richemont and I met a couple of Lange watchmakers, and there's only a few of them. You could show the Lange watchmaker a Lange movement, and he'll be able to tell you without without the movement being inscribed with initials or anything. He can tell you, yeah, I'm the one who engraved that movement. And when you ask how, it's because every watchmaker has a slightly different style. So even though they're engraving the same thing, the watchmaker could tell by the grain of the engraving, whether if it was left-handed, right-handed, and he could say, yes, I'm the one who did that because it was his particular style. Now, a lot of you guys might not believe me or might think I'm crazy, but this is a very big part of these watches at this price point. Hand finishing. At $50,000, you should expect entirely hand finished watches. At $5,000, you can expect engraved and decorated, but with minimal hand finishing. And then next is something which is a little controversial, but it's certainly true, and that is exclusivity and prestige. When you walk down Fifth Avenue in New York, you're going to need to count on your hands and toes the amount of Submariners you see in 5 minutes. They're all over the place. And that's not to say the Sub is not a great watch. In fact, I'm wearing one. However, these $50,000 plus price point watches are very exclusive, and that is part of the allure. The person purchasing it, usually a person of means, is purchasing something that makes them feel special, something that isn't readily and widely available, something that you won't run into on someone else's wrist when going to dinner. And yeah, that might sound pompous, but you're paying to have something exclusive, to have something prestigious. It's a little bit of peacocking sometimes. What are you wearing? Oh, I'm wearing a Lange. Whether you're that type of person or not, let's not deny that is part of the allure, right? To have something nobody else has, to elevate your watch to another category. And that's definitely part of this game. And it's also part of, people buying a $2,000 watch because that's higher up than a $200 watch. But it's definitely part of the allure. And, the hot horology mark around $50,000 is a big reason that differentiates, the $5,000 watch to the $50,000 watch. And then lastly, and this is not a big thing at all, but I'm going to mention it, there are some extras you can get. If you want to buy a $50,000 watch, you can contact the manufacturer. They might give you a tour of the factory, fly you out to Switzerland. You can have dinner with the watchmakers. I don't know any watch companies that offer that type of service for a $5,000 watch, and very few offer it for a $50,000 watch. But that's because many people don't ask. I mean, when I worked for Piaget, a customer said, Federico, I've been saving up for this watch for, forever, and it's a big milestone. I'd really like to pick it up at the factory. And just like, luxury cars, you can set up a European delivery where they go to Switzerland, they go to the headquarters, and they pick up their watch there. They meet the watchmaker that put it together. They shake his hand. They take a tour of the factory. They have a catered lunch. They get put up in a 5-star hotel. It's all part of the experience. And while I'd say less than 1% of people that even buy a $50,000 watch take advantage of this, it is something that is offered. Anyway, guys, those are the differences between a $5,000 watch and a $50,000 watch. Now, whether you think it's worth it or not is subjective, absolutely. There's not much performance differences. There aren't many performance differences, rather. I can't really speak English today, between those price points. But it's mainly about prestige, exclusivity, materials, some complications, stuff like that. But there are very, very real differences between the two price points. Guys, what do you think? Leave a comment in the comment section below. And also, please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Click on the little bell icon next to the subscribe button. That way you'll be notified when more videos come out. And thank you guys so much for all the awesome support in 2017. 2018 is going to be an amazing year. Thank you once again. Guys, once again, thank you for sticking around for another episode of Federico Talks Watches, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.